Hello, welcome to this live stream where we will look at some beautiful vintage colors I've printed out for you. My name is Charlotta. This is my pattern cutting school. Welcome. Here you can learn how to draft your own patterns. Today we're looking at colors and just about anything. And I do love a bit of vintage, but what I love about pattern cutting most of all is however style you are, you can draft it. So it's the same method. You might make something contemporary, I might make something vintage influence, and somebody else might make something authentically vintage. So I'm really excited to look at these colors today because I know a lot of you love colors too. You might know me from a short color video, but I've got a really nice selection of 1950s to 60s colors, and we're gonna go through them, draw out how they actually work, because sometimes they can be quite hard to see on a single photograph. And then I'm actually also going to show you which classic or basic color styles you can adapt to make your own, because what I love about all these sort of very stylish colors is that they're all based on classic color styles. You can draft your own. And you might have seen my you might have seen recently I closed my membership because I like sort of spending time with the people I have and making sure I've got enough time to spend with them. But one of the feedbacks I had with a lot of people don't yet want to commit to a membership. They want just courses or something short and sweet they can learn and then try out, not to commit fully. So what I've also done is I've created a color collection, and I've linked to it in the description below. And that's a really nice collection of 15 colors I really love, and they're from really beginner to more advanced. And I just love colors because they're a really easy way of getting into pattern cutting. So if you're not yet ready for your full block or getting into the whole thing, colors are quick and easy to draft. They're really gentle, they're small. And the great thing is, if you love sewing patterns and getting all this inspiration from them, you can just adapt them a little bit and add your own colors for your own style. So whether you're full on drafter or whether you just want a little design detail of your own, colors are really good and gentle way to get started. And with my color collection, you can really get stuck in and learn about the ones you're interested in, and then expand your knowledge, learn about fitting as well, and start creating your own sewing patterns. And to get you started on the journey, today we're going to look at these colors. I think I got about 6 or 7 before my printer broke, and I'm gonna draw them out and link them to which tutorials you can use or which methods you can use. You might already know some of them. Let me know if you do. And come on and say hello in the chat. It'd be lovely to see who's there. I can see some people watching. And then if you have any questions, I'll pop them into the chat as we're doing it. And I'll make sure to answer them. So are you all, and everybody in the chat, are you color fans? If you're a membership, you probably are. And my most popular video, I think, is a shawl collar. So you all know I do like a collar. So I'm going to switch over and have a look. Can I see the comments? Let's see. Oh, I can see you. Wonderful. Oh, hello, Kelly. Yes, you did recently join my membership, and it's lovely to have you. And you love color, so that's fantastic and great to see you enjoying it. And hello, Suzanne. Lovely to have you as well. And thank you for the Facebook review. And hello, Makita as well. And Makita says she loves the statement collar. Yes, I do too. I need more. I think as well. I'm in real life, I'm a jumper and statement skirt or statement trouser person, but now I'm teaching online. I need some statement collars, and I love them on jackets and coats, but I think I need some tops. Actually, next week we're going to talk about the end before I get distracted. Next week we're going to you can join me. I'm going to stitch another of funnel neck collars, so you can join me, and I'm going to show you how to stitch the neckline live, which is going to be interesting. So let's have a look at these colors. What I'm actually going to start with is a beautiful color the lovely Laura sent me, and I'm trying to find it, which is, I think it's a 1940s Adrian color. So if you love your vintage, your classic Hollywood, he made a lovely costume for, the sirens of the silver screen. But he just also made really beautiful clothes. And this color just stood out to me because this is exactly the same method as the funnel neck collar tutorial, which is on YouTube now. You can find it in my on my channel, which takes less than 10 minutes to draft. So it's a really nice beginner statement collar. And the great thing about collars like that is you literally, all you need is your head measurement. So have a look at the video if you want to. Don't believe me. So with your head measurement, in 10 minutes, you can add this collar to any sewing pattern or your own tops or dresses. And what I love about it, mine is, sorry, pen running out. Always a good start. So mine is a sort of classic, slightly sportswear influenced top, and with a center front seam here, so you can then add your stripes or something for a little bit of extra detail. What Adrian has done is, it's the same sort of style, and I was wondering as I was looking at all these collars, I'm not quite sure if this is a top you put over your head or whether it's got an opening somewhere. So I actually think, oh yeah, I can see buttons there. So he's actually changed it into a button stand. Can you see there's the shadow of a button, and you can see this is sort of open and there it's open. But what it's basically done, it's exactly the same. I think he slightly made it wider. I don't think that is a 90-degree angle. So it's probably something like this. And then you have your center front here. And then of course like your overlap there. So it's a slightly unusual construction because normally of course we have our button stand to the side of our center front. Here it's exactly on the center front, so it works with this beautiful neckline. And then instead of going straight like I did, he's basically angled it so it becomes this sort of, it's like a portrait collar but done differently. It really frames your face. And then I think it's sort of actually loose here. And then it must be with the collar underneath. Maybe the neckline goes like this. And then we have our really big button sort of holding it in place. So quite unusual, and there might be some little buttons here. But what I love about it is that with the same drafting method, you can do something quite sort of sporty vintage in my case, or something really statement in Adrian's case. So that's what I love about pattern cutting. Once you know how to draft it, you can amend it to anything else. And I can just see Marianne is here. So we're just talking that but you'd love to see each other live one day, and you made it. Fantastic. Lovely to see you, Marianne. Thank you for joining me. And if you're wondering, I'm going to try to be live on Thursday evenings most weeks, and hopefully sometimes with lovely Tricia from Creative Costume Academy for our Tricky Thursdays, and then on the other Thursdays I just do something like this, something nice and vintage inspired, or something drafting or sewing. So let's start off. You can see where my printer nearly gave up. Oh, I wanted to start with this one because this is actually, whether you believe it or not, a stand collar. And the stand collar is the first tutorial I put into my collar collection because it is such a classic collar. So on the membership, and also I put it in the collar collection, it looks like this. So it's just a classic. This is a slightly flatter one, this is a slightly higher one, and actually if you just saw me a second ago, I'm wearing one as well. So I do love a stand collar because it is it just adds a little bit of sort of, rather than being flat, it just moves up. It frames your face, which is of course what colors do beautifully. But what this one is again, and I'm actually going to get my book back so I can draw it out in a second, but I want to actually outline it first here properly. So can you see it's got sort of a beautiful little sort of jacket, and this is a 1960, and it's a Jean Patou, and Jean Patou actually put a collar in the collection, which is a double shawl collar, and it's a designer which is known less than it should be, because Jean, I think, is a, it could be a man, whatever, whether it's a man or woman, and they do some beautiful jackets and with really nice collar details. But what it basically is, I'm trying to draw it, it's basically a stand collar. Can you see this, the neckline underneath? But the stand collar, normally for our normal stand collar, we want like a nice fit which sort of follows our neckline and frames our face. So that's sort of your classic stand collar, which is beautiful. This one is really clever because it has a, trying to draw it exactly how it is, and I never practice these, which is sometimes my drawing is better than other times. You can see it's a collar with a button stand with 2 buttons, and then the collar, instead of framing the face, again like the Adrian, it's slightly more away, and that enables you to get different fits. So this is more like a knotted scarf. And then what we have really cleverly, and I was trying to work out where exactly it fits, so I think this would be like the button stand overlap. So I think they've actually finished the collar, so one side of the collar finishes being stitched to the right hand side on this side, and then this is the stitching finishes to the collar again on that side. So you actually got a collar which is stitched to here, and then you got basically a loose scarf. But what they've done to create this really nice knot is there's basically on this side you've got maybe a slit like a buttonhole, and then what basically the other side of the collar comes through that slit. So probably right in this where it stops being stitched, you have a buttonhole, which might be in a seam, because that way you can do it like a beautifully hidden, basically a slit rather than a buttonhole, and then it slips through. So it's a really clever way of basically doing a stand collar. We're probably folding the top rather than having a seam, which we need because of our shaping, and then we're just extending it. So it might start up like this, and I think then it probably, the shape might be like this, something like that. And then of course we can fold this whole line, or we can have a seam to save on fabric. But isn't it clever how you can turn something classic stand collar like that, just by knowing how it works and adapting it to suit you, you can then create a really beautiful big vintage statement collar. And Michelle, hello Michelle is saying this collar would look nice on the cashmere Catskill jacket, and I think I know which one you mean. Yes, I think this sort of, you know what, I can, because this is like a boucle vol, which is very French, very beautiful vintage. I could even imagine it in like you could make it in a flannel, so you can make it in the wool, you can sort of dress it up or down, and I can actually even imagine it in a really nice fleece, like really cozy. So again, I think I might have said it in the final color collection, I don't really do sportswear, but I can imagine this actually being a really fashion sportswear, that sort of big collar. Or like what I always love, I love when people use old blankets. And I came across a beautiful old blanket in a charity shop and I bought it, but I've got the veto at the moment from my other half. It's sort of cream and green, like a big check, but he said he's not sure he would want to be seen out as me, so I might have to make it and then convince him it's rather beautiful. But yeah, I think that's a really versatile collar to add to any sort of boxy jacket, but you can also mention on like an oversized or a flat coat as well. And Michelle is saying, do you think the collar widens toward the bottom of the ties, or is it the same width the entire length? I think it widens, because if you look here, that is the height or the width, and then this is much bigger. So you might have like the collar probably the same height all along, so about 10 centimeters. And then I would probably, and this is now a trick I think when I did the Dior bar jacket inspired tutorial years ago, I used this quite a lot. But can you see on here, the collar is 2 centimeters, and then here it's actually about 4. So that gives you an indication that you would want to double the width to get the same look. You might actually say, oh, that's too much, I might make it short. You can make it really short and sweet, like a little sort of knotted bandeau or silk square. But to get that statement, I would double the size. And again, you can actually then say, this is like a natural, that's probably around natural waist. You can actually then say, oh, that has to be like 40 centimeters long, depending on your torso length. But that's how you can then actually look at these. And once you know the drafting technique and the fitting on how to get that fit, you can then design anything you want and make it fit to you as well. And you are welcome, Michelle. Glad it made sense. Okay, so that's the first one, and I just saw that's like instant glamour, incredibly easy to draft. Let's find one which is, let's do one step up. This is a bit more complicated. Oh, let's have a look at this. This is actually the whole jacket. It's just beautiful. I'm going to actually look at this sleeve. This is a sleeve which comes round from the back, and then it wraps round, and then it probably go. I put the buttons there, but I would probably imagine it goes up like this. So that's our sleeve head. And then you got the buttons here. So it's really nice. So it might be at the back actually. We're getting distracted from collars, but I wanted to show you because that is quite stunning. I think the back, if you're really clever, you might actually, on the back, you either have like a raglan, and then it will grow out of that and sort of wrap around there like this. Or it might actually grow out of maybe out of a yoke at the back, but you can have lots of fun actually doing that. Oh, and I can see Patty has joined us. Oh, so I do know who you are, but thank you for watching live. Is it the colours which persuaded you to watch, or just luck? Because if you're in Toronto, it's mid-afternoon, I think, Patty. But thank you for joining me. So this is a really beautiful sleeve, but sleeves are a different topic. We're going to look at colours, and this again, I want to show you. I find this is a really interesting fit collar because all it is basically is a one-piece collar. And if you're interested in drafting your own in the collection, it's just called Draft a One-Piece Open Collar. So it's a slightly more relaxed fit collar, which opens a bit more. And you can see this is what you think of a sort of classic standard example of a collar like that. But again, once you know the classic method, you can then make it a lot more oversized. And what I find quite interesting with that one is we normally like with the classic collar construction, I show you how to fit it quite nicely onto your neckline. But here I've made it quite oversized. So this will, this is like your neck underneath, and then the top collar so folds down like that. So it's got such a much wider outer edge, but it completely changes the look, and it sort of works really well because I think it's sort of like you get all these layers of volume. So like again, even like this, it's tucked in, but then it's quite soft, and it's like petals nearly. There's a little petal there, and you got the bigger sort of petal going around here, and then the biggest shape is that. So that's really lovely. And that is a 1915 Montesano coat, and that's Evelyn Trips, who I assume is an actress. You might know. But I just want to show you that it's a really simple variation. But just because something looks really glamorous or voluminous doesn't mean it's difficult to draft. It's just knowing the method, and then you can adapt it. And that's always nice about looking lots of images, that you can then work out how it's drafted and how it works for you. Let's have a look at this. So this is a, oh, this didn't have a name online. So these are off Pinterest, of course. And normally I try to get a name, but this didn't have a name. But I love it. It's got, first of all, of course, look at this. It's got a gusset sleeve. And if you've been with me for a while, you know I love a gusset sleeve for a vintage style. But the reason I chose this is because one of the colors I really love, which I think gets misunderstood a lot, is the classic sailor collar. And you can see, again, it's in the collection. And a classic sailor collar, you think it's sort of flat at the front. It might have a little knot there if you go to the Scouts or your proper sailor, and then at the back it's got like a square cut often. But you might have noticed I'm calling it a separate sailor or shawl collar, because what I really love about this collar method is that you can draft any shape. So it is like a sort of flat, it's actually a Peter Pan collar as well, but it just depends on which neckline you put it. So in here you can see it has this amazing style, and in theory it's very similar to a shawl collar, but the difference with a shawl collar is, of course, with a shawl collar this would look something like this. With a sailor collar we basically separate them, and we have a separate collar, which means you have more choice with how to fit it, because we can actually make it curved if we need to, and also you can have it flatter or higher throughout. And with styles like that where you want a really flat fit, a sailor collar is really beautiful, because it is like an oversized flat collar. Again, Peter Pan, it looks like, you know, you think of children's wear, but it's a really good separate collar which works with different necklines rather than the classic tight basic neckline we have for other separate shirt collars. And I've got some more questions. And Beth is saying, I have some Harris Treat wool that would look beautiful in this suit. Oh, I agree. I think anything looks beautiful in Harris Treat, but this suit especially would be really nice. And I love how Harris Treat, because it's, when you start out, it can be quite raw, and Beth is the wool and spinning and weaving spinning expert, so have a look at her. She now makes beautiful custom-made clothes if you want some. But Harris Tweed ages beautifully, and the longer you wear it, the more it sort of molds into your body, so it sort of works with your body. It's beautiful. And Michelle is saying, is this a grown-on sleeve or satin sleeve? This is a grown-on sleeve, so it's a gusset sleeve, so it's all in one, and when you add a little gusset for movement, which is why I love it, because it's very, very simple. And you can see it's got a completely different fit to, for example, the last one we looked in, which was a classic satin sleeve, but with that sort of lovely wrap over. So what's really nice about this is because it's a separate collar, you can then add details like that. So I've done a big bow. It's, you know, it's up to taste. You have a knot, you can have a bow. But being separate, allows you to go really big. It doesn't use as much space as a short collar on your fabric cutting, and it just creates a really nice, different, more defined fit. And it's also easier to stitch, because if you ever tried a short collar, you know this area is always a bit tricky. So this is a really nice example of what a sailor collar can be despite the name. And I'm actually going to have a look at this one. Oh, I'm going to show you two examples. Okay, here we have two notched collars. We've got a 1958 Jean Patou and a 1950 Jacques Griff. I can't read my writing. I think it's Griffin. Again, we actually got beautiful sleeves as well. Let's a quick look at the sleeve. And then this has got like top stitching, so that echoes our notch there. And then this sleeve is even clever because it's got like a pleat here, I think. And then, actually, I think it's separate. And then it's got sort of a cuff, but only at the back. And there might be a seam there. You can't quite see. I think it might be a seam. But in that seam, they basically put like an oversized cuff, but not on this part. So very clever. But again, all you need is a two-part sleeve. And then you can just add that and sort of round it out a bit. But what they are is notched collars. And you got two ways of drafting a notched collar. One is, which I always call an easy notched collar, which is basically you use your separate sailor collar to create a flatter notched collar, which is really good for vintage styles because they quite often use them, and they're much easier than a tailored lapel collar. So I put the tailored lapel collar in because it's a really classic, beautiful jacket style, but it is a bit more advanced. So if you're maybe quite new to sewing patterns, using your separate sailor collar to create a really easy tailored style collar is a really easy way and gentle way of getting started on notched collars. And here are two different ways. This is the more classic one, which I love. So this got a massive, oh, actually it's becoming more beautiful as I look at it. It's got a really big sort of double breasted style. And the reason, look at this. So what it has, this is your natural waist. And again, it has the same little, what would you call this? Little sort of dip here. And then it's got a seam there. And again, they sort of top stitched it. And it's basically because this is a really thick wool, it becomes sort of nearly sculptural top stitching. It's beautiful. Then you got a pocket in your seam there, really beautiful. But then what you have is basically what looks like a really expensive and very difficult to draft tailored collar, but you can actually use your sailor collar method to draft this, because what it basically is a grown on lapel, and then it has a separate one piece. You can draft it with a two-piece collar as well, but one-piece collar is easier. You got a separate collar around your neckline, and because this lies quite open, you can easily draft it with your sailor collar. So the rule is normally the more it lays open, the better your sailor collar method will work, and the more fitted it is around the neckline, the more likely you're to need to draft a proper tailored collar. But you can see how this is quite open. It's a slightly bigger neckline, so it's moving away from your original neckline a little bit, maybe a centimeter or so, and it lays quite open. So she's got this scarf underneath really beautifully. But you can see how it looks really elegant, looks tailored, but it's actually surprisingly easy to draft. And then by contrast here, so this is 8 years old earlier, and so I always love seeing how fashion changes because it's the same drafting method. So here again you can see how we've got basically the grown on collar rising out of our coat really beautifully. And then we've got a notch here, and then we've got a separate collar. And again, this sits quite open and flat all around the neck. So again, I would use a sailor collar method for that. And what is quite beautiful is when you use a separate sailor collar. Like this, you get a seam here, and that when you have to sort of choose your style specifically. If you drafted this and it looked literally like this, it can be quite tricky to finish that seam if it's very pointed, which is why quite often they have a little bit of a round shape. But if you use like your notch collar, because the lower part is grown on, then it has a beautiful fold, but it still has a separate top collar, which means you can fit it in more different ways to your own taste compared to a completely grown on collar like a short collar. So it opens lots of fitting, lots of drafting design possibilities, but it's all the same method, which is why collars are great, because you learn the method behind it, and then you can draft lots and lots of different collars. And I'm going to look at two more to finish on. This one is Dior from 1952, and I'm never 100% sure whether I like an asymmetric collar like this. I think this is actually done really well, but you know, quite often you see it in the catwalk most year, where they sort of cut up a suit, and then one side will go like that, or they mismatch it, and quite often it isn't done cleverly enough. When it's done well, it looks beautiful. That sort of mismatch, and maybe like Westwood does it quite often. There's a few designers who do it where they sort of suddenly it becomes something else, or it's layered. Galliano has done stuff as well where it's sort of layered. It's like it looks you're wearing several suit jackets. But this is like a vintage version of it, and I quite like it. But what do you think about asymmetric collars? Of course, the thing is, before I have a look at it, up to now, everything we've done has been done on the half. Because if you're working symmetrically, we like to save time. We do our just half a drafting pattern, and then we put on the folder, we cut it out twice, apart from a neck or a collar, which I like to cut out as one big piece so it doesn't get wonky. Because a collar, if you think you have a long collar like that, if you slightly lay on the fold and your fabric moves, you end up with something which ends up like this. But apart from that, we save time and we draft in the half. With asymmetric styles like that, of course, you will have to draft your left hand body and your right hand body and the whole collar. So it's a bit more, it's some more work, a little bit more work, but it's a lot more paper. Oh, and hello Laura, no worries. And yes, just start watching from the beginning if you want to, and you can always send me a comment later on Instagram or something. So this collar, it's the new page. What I love about this collar is that this is where you can start, when you might have learned a few collar methods, so you know your separate like sailor collar method, you know a one-piece collar method, and then you can start basically, first of all, trying to work out, how will I draft it? Would I draft it as one collar? Which method do I use? And then you might actually realize that there's something like that. This half is basically like a one-piece open collar. This part is basically like a short collar. Like a separate sailor short collar. So you can see, and then they're of course both joined by just a collar like this in the back. And this is where you can really start having fun and also starting to use what you've learned and making it into your own. So there you would probably, I would actually draft this. I'm just thinking, I would probably draft it like a separate sailor collar, because that way it's completely flat. So I wouldn't use two ways, but all you basically have, instead of having like on one side you've got a pattern which looks, it probably goes across, doesn't it? So this is our center front here, and then it goes across. I'm just thinking how it's done. So I think that's probably your left. You see, I just try to use it like an iPad. Slightly embarrassing. It's something like, looks like an angled dart there, but it might just be a straight dart. But it's something like this pattern. Oh, there's also another dart here. So there's something here happening here. So that's your left-hand side. And then, of course, we also have our right-hand side, which again sort of goes across. And there's also got a rack, it's actually got a beautiful raglan sleeve. So this is sort of this is where if you're doing anything asymmetric, it gets a little bit complicated. So this is something like that. And again, our center front is around here. So what you then would basically do is, you know, you want your collar to be like, you can literally draw it on how you want it. You want it like this. And then you need the same collar width at this shoulder as well. I mean, of course, has a raglan sleeve, so the original shoulder look like that. And here, same. You need the same width there, so it looks identical, because that's why it works. But it's still like a normal collar at the shoulders. But then, of course, here it comes down. So you can literally draw it on. And then you use your sailor collar pattern cutting method to draft the whole collar out, but you just have two separate fronts. So it's sort of where you can start having fun and experimenting. But what the great thing is, both these collars are drafted with the same method. So these 6 styles are all really classic pattern cutting methods, based on classic pattern cutting methods for collars, but then they're turned into something really special by making it vintage, oversizing, playing with the drafting style, you know, what fabric you use, adding details like the slit in where you have the scarf detail. And to finish off, I wanted to show you one collar, which is a beautiful Balenciaga. I think it's either from maybe 1962 or 3. And it's not Balenciaga, it's Dior. Sorry. I looked at this on Instagram on a live years ago. But we looked at the skirt at the time, which is also beautiful as well. But this looks so beautiful. So I'm just doubting myself whether it's a Balenciaga or Dior, because this is a very Balenciaga sleeve. I will find out. I've got it saved. This comes a little jacket to wear on top. You can see it's rather stunning. But what I love about this, that this looks really, really complicated. But what it basically is a one-piece collar again. And then what they've basically done is they extended the front with a twist, which is very similar to the twist we done on here. So this is one of the more designed tutorials from the collar collection, which is called a twisted knot detail neckline, which is not really collar because it's the bodice, but it creates this really nice twisted over neckline. And on this one, it's done on both sides. On this one, it's just done from one side. So you got all the fitting in there, and then there's just shaping, probably added from the dart into a neckline, we're converting shaping into more volume to create basically a one-sided twist effect. But it works exactly the same. So that was just like, that's what I absolutely love about drafting, is that I looked at this collar years ago, and sometimes I need to figure out things in my head, and I was going to make it a lot more complicated. And when you draft something else which is similar, you sort of think, oh yes, I can use the same method. It's basically an extended center fronted neckline with extra volume added, and then you just pleat it in. And then the only thing when I would make the trowel, I would figure out how it would actually go together, because if this is a fully working button stand, I would probably underneath it have this loose here, and then you would just have poppers, and then this would actually be stitched down. Or it might actually be stitched into a straight facing, and then you just have this also the collar underneath again stitched down, so it's actually held in place, because quite often this drape looks like that. You need to sort of hold it in place, so it often looks like it's just twisted, but with all pieces like that, we're actually often guys held in place with hand stitching. So this is, and again, you could actually use a sailor collar method for that, but this is basically a collar, like a normal collar looks like that. But what they've done on here is, in a way, it's sort of folded up and then with a pleat. So if your collar piece looks something like this, it might be sort of slightly less there, and then this is like a pleat, or sort of darty pleat, and that gets folded in. So literally just gets pinched up. So it's a bit like a knot basically. So you just pinch it in, and then again, if I draw it without the collar, the neckline has this sort of pleat again here. But then I think, because of course that's one side of a jacket, and as I go down, and I think that's actually stitched into a flat facing. So it's a lot easier to do when it looks like to begin with, because you think, oh, it's all three drapes and stuff, but I think you can actually make it a little bit easier than it looks like. And I can just see Erin has joined us. Thank you for joining me, Erin, and I hope you enjoy these collars. I think there's going to be 7 or 8 by the end. And hello Esther, lovely to have you, and I'm glad you're also a collar lover and you love asymmetry, because as I said, I'm slightly on the fence with this one. I'm originally from Germany as well, so hello. And I've got Michelle saying, is there a twist collar on the dress form behind you? Yes, this is my beautiful, what I call a royal collar. It's also in the collection. It's it was inspired by, I think it's a Dutch princess who always wears beautiful clothes. So it's a contemporary collar, but it's got a real vintage feel. And the reasons on here, because I want to make it out of a more daywear fabric, because this, if I move in the light, this is actually, in real life, here it looks quite muted. In real life, it's quite a bright citron, and it's the most beautiful. I'll make myself. There we go. It's the most beautiful, really silk wool mix, but I only need to look at it and it starts greasing. So this is freshly, like properly steamed. If you steam this starts folding and creasing. It's like it reacts. It's a really tricky fabric, so I need to make it in a more daywear fabric so I can actually wear it all day and look good, rather than putting it on and thinking, oh. I can't stand creased clothes. They make me, it's sort of always ironing is not the most enjoyable thing, but it's really worth it and pressing, because it makes everything look good. Really simple t-shirt, if you iron it, it looks lovely. So this one, just look at the sleeves. It's just like drives me potty. And it's beautiful, so I want to wear it because the fabric is a bit of a remnant from a company I worked for, so it's really beautiful Scottish wool. But yeah, I don't know if we designed this, we used it, but I guess for that price, but I can't do that. But yes, thank you. So that is the roll collar. It's called a wrap funnel, that collar. It's the last collar in the collection because that is a little bit more advanced. The drafting is actually okay. It's a clever funnel with this hidden seam and pleats, but the sewing, because it's asymmetric again, is a little bit more complicated. So there's a full sewing tutorial for that as well. But these are all the beautiful vintage collars I wanted to share with you. So I hope some of you have inspired you to make some, maybe, you know, add to an existing jacket pattern you have, or maybe you draft something new. I quite fancy that oversized stand with a tie, because I've been meaning to make a coat for years now, but realistically I probably haven't got time, so it might just be a simple jacket. And if you want to make the funnel drafting tutorial, which is on my channel now, which is how to draft a funnel neck in 10 minutes, I'm going to be back next Thursday, and I'm actually going to make another one out of a tartan. So I'm going to cut it during the week, and then I'm going to do the order of construction live next Thursday. So that's going to be interesting. I might have to turn the volume off and I'm doing some stitching. But I've got lots of nice tartans. I've got the slightly more safer choices, which are thinner cotton tartan, but then I'm tidying up again. And I've got these beautiful Scottish wool tartans, which are a bit heavier. They're slightly itchy, but I always quite like that itchiness of real wool. But I thought, so, if I have that fabric, it'd be a beautiful top like that. And maybe mix them up a bit, because I've only got sort of half a meter of each. So I think it's not enough for a whole top. So I might do some mixing. I need to find two which match exactly. This is a blue still match, but maybe have some fun with that. So do join me if you're interested in making your own. Next Thursday, you can even make it live with me, which would be interesting. But yes, so I'll be back next Thursday, same time on here, and I hope you can join me. And I've just got the last few questions. Kelly loves those tartans as well. Yes, I agree, Kelly. They're very precious, but very pretty. And Michelle is saying, are you going to put the collar on the diagonal? Yes, Michelle. So the actually, I should have worn it today. The collar is like a funnel neck inserted into a right angle, into a V-neck. So what you basically do is, because it's a woven, we're turning it like a roll collar. We're turning it onto the bias, but we're adding a real design detail. And then you can either have a straight full frontal piece, or you can actually add a center front seam and center back seam. So if you're working in stripes, you can have lots of fun with chevrons. But it's definitely going to be on the bias, but only the neck insert. So the top itself is quite stable because it's done on the straight of grain, but then we have that funnel on a bias, so you can put it on and off more easy. So I'm going to interface it as well. Maybe I think a stitch in interfacing, but I just need to choose it exactly where I want to, where I want to have that, what I want to have. This would look beautifully at the edge of my insert. So Claire McCardle has done it quite a lot, where she uses the check or plate to sort of create fake yolks very cleverly. But yes, so we will talk about it tomorrow, next week, and we can stitch it all together and see how it works out. But that's it for me for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye bye. And Marianne and Michelle and Kelly and Beth and Esther and Aaron and Laura and Patty. So thank you so much, and Makita as well, and Susanne. So thank you so much, everybody who joined me today, and I'll be back next Thursday. So enjoy the rest of your day, and if you're some west of me, and if you're in the UK or east of me, good night, everybody.